So, kind of in the same line of thinking, I just thought about so if there's an artist that wants to sort of be like, oh, this is a great, I would like to do that. So, in your opinion, like, what would your perfect artist science collaboration mashup look like? Is there like a particular thing that you're like, oh, this would be great if this happened? Like, is there where you're like, the artist needs to be open to this, or the scientist needs to be open to this?
Um, I definitely think time is one of those because having the time develops trust, and I think
Mm.
um, trust it because you have to find the time first of all to be to explore, to be curious, to try different things, to be prepared to fail, to have those awkward conversations. Um, because of course, there's been thousands and probably countless of art science collaborations where it has just been like 2 months, and the two people have just really got on, and I'm sure they've created great stuff. But the more time you have, I think, to develop relationships, it's like any kind of relationship, really. But because um, you want to avoid, I think you'd want to avoid that relationship where the scientist or the artist says, right, this is my thing, I want you to create this.
Mm.
Or the artist says equally, I want this from you, this more extractive kind of thing. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to not talk to you until the thing's produced and we see each other in a show in 3 weeks' time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm sure there's millions of things that have been produced which from that relationship, which is very good. But if we're talking about developing more legacy and more long-lasting relationships, because from all the scientists and artists I've talked to, they prefer the longer they have with science. And some of the complaints when I've read about art science collaborations have been from the artist side, at least, not having enough time to kind of really understand or saying, the scientists didn't really want me there. I felt like they thought I was a nuisance and all this kind of stuff. So I think, yeah, obviously it's different for everyone. Some people might prefer that, if you, but to really understand the science and to really understand each other, then that's what an art science collaboration is. However, you don't have to have the collaborative element to still make good art. But then it doesn't become an art science collaboration. It becomes like, you can go down the route of terminology, because I know academically, at least, there's loads of different terminologies like sci art or and all this there's so many different terms, and some of them are a bit less collaborative, and it's more like, yes, I'll give you this, you go off and do the thing, great. So I suppose the collaborative element would involve, actually collaborating rather than just the scientist giving some data to an artist with no other expectations. So yeah, I think the time to kind of develop relationships is something that at least encourages a more collaborative, level playing field relationship, I think. Does it make better art? What's better art? Who knows? It might not, it might do, but at least if you want that collaborative element to be as collaborative as possible, then the more you allow for that, I think the better.
The richer the project might be, or the art being created. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And you need people who are willing to do it. Because I've had scientists who don't see any value in art science collaborations at all. But the ones who I work with are the ones who want to work with it. It'd be interesting to kind of, if they had to force people to work with artists, what would happen then? I'm sure you'd have amazing stuff there too, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
But
sometimes
yeah,
a
I
little
don't know.
outside their comfort zone.
And I think that's a good point, because I think a lot of the time, spoken to artists, oh, I don't know if I wanted to do something. I didn't know because I'm not really from an artistic background, and so I didn't do it. I'm sure there are a lot of people who don't engage in these kind of collaborative ways of working because of that, and they think, oh, I don't know. I've definitely had loads of conversations about that where people didn't feel like they had the vocabulary or their work wasn't interesting enough. But obviously, that's just a matter of perspective, isn't it? So, and the same with artists, I guess. It can be quite overwhelming when you go into places and people are talking. These big words. Like I've been in lectures we hold at the institute, and I have no idea what's going on, and I try my best to. And like the science is just like I didn't get any of that. And so yeah, it's a relationship builds, I guess.
Yeah. Good. That's where I was at, right? Good relationships with people.